Welcome to Squatch-D TV, where the truth is first before all else. Join your hosts, veteran investigator, TV personality, and author Steve Kulls, and from the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Project and the Kentucky Fried Fixes channel, Chris Bennett. Sit back and prepare to take yourself on a journey with the longest-running Bigfoot podcast, Squatch-D TV. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatch-D TV for today's date, March 29th, 2026. I'm your host, your guide, the Squatchdetective Steve Kulls, along with the co-host with the most right down there, Mr. Chris Bennett. Hello, Chris.
Steve, man, it's good to see you. Hope you've been enjoying this warm weather.
Oh, yeah. I had a nice steak on the grill tonight with some friends that came over earlier today. So,
Good.
You know, as you know, I do taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Not professionally, I don't, but I've done my own taxes for many, many years, and taught by my brother, who was a tax preparer and a tax preparer trainer.
Yeah.
And so I learned from the best, and so I take care of their taxes every year, and I'll be soon doing mine. I'm kind of holding off because my former employer screwed my W-2 up, where they did not withhold hardly any federal withholding. Did the state fine, but for some reason they had a technical glitch. And of course, we never got pay stubs from them either, which kind of agitates me a bit too. Like, they never gave you the paper stub. Oh, you want to check online? You can check online, and couldn't do it.
Right.
Tried, couldn't do it. So I get my W-2 in the mail. I'm like, what the?
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, what the?
And it's coming up, April. We got a couple of weeks in before due date there. So
I mean, I'm not worried. I mean, I do very well anyway with tax returns. So
I'd always put it off. Wait till the last week, then rush around like a chicken with my head cut off.
Strangely, last year I did really well with the state, so I assume that trend is going to continue because they didn't really raise taxes this year in New York.
Yeah.
Amazingly.
Kentucky likes their money. They like to take those taxes from you.
Of course.
So even if you get by, even break even on the federal, like state, you always got to write them a check.
Again, Chris, you're in charge of the chat tonight, so I have no clue what's being said or what's being...
Yeah, well...
It keeps me laser focused because me and my ADHD, I tend to like...
quite a few people in the chat.
Yes.
A lot of people.
Yep, good deal.
The chat is hopping officially.
All righty. So it's been another interesting weekend as we have more news coming out, but still enjoying the nice weather. Spring has sprung. Tomorrow I'm looking at a high of 65 for March. That's beautiful weather in New York. So
right.
Yay. No rain. Nice clear day tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Sandy, as soon as it warms up, she always does this every spring. She goes out and starts gathering up, little limbs and branches that broke off during the winter and piling them up and having fires. It's like, gosh, we have bonfires 24/7 around here anymore.
And the strange thing is I don't really have much to do for work tomorrow. I got a report to write real quick, and I got to make a couple phone calls. Other than that, pretty free and clear. So I'll be working on things. Of course, Chris, we've been working on a lot of things lately, and hopefully if they come to fruition, it's going to rock. It's going to rock.
Oh, yes.
But yeah,
let us pray.
So Chris and I have I kind of decided, and Chris has kind of got to go along with it, that when the documentary premieres on the network, we're going to do a reaction video live. So Chris and I will watch it for the first time together. We can't air it. We can't air the audio, but we'll narrate a little bit what's going on as we watch it for those who may not have the particular streaming service it's going to show up on. We'll make sure we have that streaming service and we'll be watching it. and just giving, you'll see our lifetime reactions to it, which will be kind of fun to see, and we'll narrate and give our thoughts on it afterwards. Yeah. So that's what we're planning on doing now. A little did people know that we found out on Friday night after the show that the Capturing Bigfoot documentary was going to air at a film festival in New Orleans, Louisiana. And Chris and I were on the phone for quite some time, not only discussing that, but other things, which are gonna be fun and huge if everything goes the way we want it to. And I had made plans to fly to New Orleans. I had the ticket scoped out. I had the hotel scoped out. And I was going to fly down to New Orleans on April 11th to see one of the 2 screenings they were going to do of Capturing Bigfoot. Unfortunately, we find out today that, and let me see if I have that notice. I do. And I'm going to put that up there on the board for everybody. And this came directly from the Overlook Film Festival, from which is where this came. And there you have it. And what it says is basically scheduling update, Capturing Bigfoot no longer screening. There's been a change to the lineup and schedule. Unfortunately, Capturing Bigfoot has been reluctantly pulled from the schedule and all future screenings for the time being by the film team due to a pending issue regarding serious piracy concerns that could impact its sale. We understand and respect their decision, and the Overlook wishes to support what's best for the film. So, yada, yada, yada.
They probably didn't agree with taking everybody's phone.
That is entirely possible. They may have had a policy where we're not going to take phones from people or whatnot.
Yeah.
And you're right. After the first airing, they didn't really have that concern, but now everybody wants to see that film, right? Yeah. So they have to not, because if it gets leaked,
I think Eric said they took his phone. They took his phone during the first showing.
Now here's the issue. People, see, I told you it was a cash grab. No. They're just protecting their film rights.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if I have a video coming out on something, I don't want to splash it all over the place. We've been talking about Project Forest Stalker. I don't have that stuff splashed anywhere.
Yeah.
We gave a little tease, and that's it. You're going to have to see. You're going to have a...
Usually when something shows on the big screen, there's a cam version of it available online somewhere. Of course, the audio and the video will be very terrible. But
Right. So, I mean, they're just doing their due diligence to protect their films and the sale of the film. And I don't think they meant sale. I think they have the licensing to stream it. Yeah. And from what I'm understanding, there was some strong indications a week ago that they had somebody in mind and that there was negotiation going on. That's the rumor, and that's all I can say. That was a rumor. Nothing has been confirmed in stone in that particular matter, but we do know that it's not going to be airing in New Orleans, and guess what? Steve will not be flying out there to go see it, because that's what I was planning on doing. And Chris and I had this long discussion about logistics. I was going to do a pre-show thing, and I was going to do a food review for the members area, because I had a place hooked out to eat on the way there to the theater, because we were showing at 4:45. I was going to get to the hotel and then have lunch at one of the nice, there's no better food anywhere than in New Orleans. I think it's one of the places where I've gotten some of the best food in my life. So I was really getting juiced. I was like, this is going to be awesome. And unfortunately, the film got pulled. So, bad
luck.
I just...
and let's see. Mr. Mike Patrick says, I had a very interesting conversation with a contact on this film. He filled me in on this project as he is good friends with Clint. He told me things that are going to be in the film. Okay, yeah. Well, Eric did a nice breakdown.
Yeah, Patrick, if you watched any of Eric's podcasts lately, you'll see, and if there's anything kind of out of whack, just let us know. But everything has been pretty consistent with what, of course, he did that right after he saw it, so he gets the freshest out there. Unfortunately, and this is where the bad behavior part of her title comes into effect, is that Eric is getting doxxed by people in the Bigfoot community, the pro PGF film people in the community. And of course, I'm ashamed. If there's people we know that are doing this, I'm ashamed. Why would they start calling his work? Because that's what's going on. They're calling him at work, and they're saying things about him at work. And if that's happening, aren't we acting like the bad guys that we've always talked about doing that kind of stuff?
That's very bad behavior.
Very bad behavior, yes. And my apologies on behalf of the Bigfoot community to Eric for that happening. That shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
Right? He just reported on what he saw and his opinions on what he saw. Everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Yes.
If you want to say that the film is bunk, and even though you haven't seen it yet, and you think it's a cash grab, or you think, there's another bunch that's saying, oh, well, that film is AI. No, it's not. It's not AI. Bill Munns has even said it's not AI, right?
Yeah. Patrick says, his breakdown was excellent. I'm still staying skeptical until I can see it. I agree. That's the best
I agree. That's the way to be.
Right.
So, but to dox somebody and go after somebody over his opinion of seeing the film and the reality it means for him, like he said, he wasn't invested in it, but you could see the night he did the review how much it bothered him to say this.
Yes.
Right? It was no great pleasure of his to say what he saw, but he felt the obligation to tell folks. And you're shooting the messenger.
Right.
I
got the impression that Eric was overwhelmed while he was telling us this, on his video.
Well, even as he saw it, remember the guy in the Bigfoot costume turned to him and said, "You good?"
Right. Yeah.
And kind of laughed about it, but yeah, he was that shook up when by the end of the film, he was like just sitting there, because apparently like the last 10, 15 minutes of that film was going to be like, earth-shattering to some folks. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Nice. Patrick says, regardless, it's not going to change me or my belief in any way they exist. Yeah.
100%. 100%. We know this creature exists. I've seen two of them. Chris has seen a couple of them.
Yeah.
We know there's been sightings before the Patterson-Gimlin film, and we know there's been sightings after.
Right.
See, does not change that fact.
That's a common misbelief on the side of the skeptics or the skeptics. They think if they could debunk the Patterson-Gimlin film, they could debunk Bigfoot.
Right.
And in reality, that's just not how the world works.
No. If we were to say that, this film that came out tomorrow with, this Bigfoot on it is a hoax, it would have no bearing on whether or not Bigfoot exists or not, and neither does this. It's just the fact that we've put this film up on a pedestal over the years as one of our strongest pieces of evidence.
The only reason is because it had taken decades and had not been debunked.
Right? Yeah. If it is debunked, if it is
debunked now, right?
So, but that is the stand. And you know what? I dare say if I see the film and Chris sees the film and we both agree that, hey, this kind of debunks it, you know what? You can come at us all you want. We got the facts on our side, and we will. And if the film is trash, like some people are saying, then we will state that too, and the other side can come at us any way they want. But the point being is that we all need, and what we see now is people grasping at straws without seeing the evidence. Well, this and that and this and that. How can you have an argument against something you haven't seen yet? You've heard, and you're speculating like, people saying, oh, that's, Patricia Patterson isn't in her right mind and she's got dementia. Like, well, what evidence do you have of that? Right? Watch the film. See if she really has dementia. Right? There's people that are trying to influence other people not to watch it at all. That goes against every research and investigative principle whatsoever. Right? That would be like somebody on death row and okay, we got 2 days till he gets, the switch flipped, right?
Right.
And that's right, Mike. He took no joy in his assessment. Yeah. So that would be like saying, well, you know what? We're not going to look at this new evidence that may prove this guy's innocence because we're flipping the switch on him in 2 days, right? Yeah. We got to look at this evidence as investigators, as researchers. It's our obligation. Right. Now, some people want to stick their head in the sand and go, no. All right, whatever. To me, if you're sitting there saying, I'm not going to watch this film, blah, 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 you're being a Karen. You're being a Karen.
And that's not what this channel is all about. This channel is about getting to the truth.
Right.
Regardless whether we, agree with that truth or we disagree with it, if it's truth and fact, we got to accept it.
Right. And I will always say this. Remember, I'm the guy who defended the Patterson-Gimlin film on X-Zone Radio back in 2005. And I stood a staunch defender of the film, even though I wasn't 100% convinced. Because Chris knows, my wife knows, that I've always had some issues with certain things, which I'm not going to get into until after we see the film.
Right.
But I defended this film, and I'm very, very comfortable with saying if I watch this and the evidence flips the script on me, I was wrong. I'm man enough to admit that. Who else can do that? I hope everybody in our audience can be that way too, and be adult enough to do it.
Right. Alex says,
"Hey, Alex,
just goes to show how crazy some people are. At the end of the day, this is just Bigfoot, not something more serious in the face of wars, horrible things going on in the world. People need to relax." I agree.
Yeah. I mean,
this is just one piece of evidence. And it's not even any evidence that Steve and I collected. So
and hold on. So when I set up my table and displays, right? When I set up my table and displays, if people think, "Oh, Steve, you're being sounds like you're being a little anti-PG film." No, I'm pro-evidence. I'm not anti-PG film. Right. But if I set my tables up, let me show you something I got behind me. So I'm going to show you all this. This actually sits on my display tables.
Yay!
Right?
Yeah.
Right? That sits on my display table. Will it this year? I don't think so.
Well, you could
not for now.
You could add a note.
Yeah, can I add a note? But that sits on my display table. So don't say I'm anti-PG film, because I always have been. Don't say I'm turning on Bob Gimlin if I turn out and see this film and believe otherwise. Because the other folks, you're turning on the widow of the man who filmed this, right? Yeah. Making and all I'm hearing are excuses right now. You got to see the evidence and then figure it out for yourselves. If people say that after the evidence, she looks like she's confused. Okay, now we have something objectively to look at, right?
Yeah.
Right now we're doing the MK Davis massacre thing, right? Right? Oh, there's a spot of blood in there, and that means that see that picture? That's Bob. That's John Green and Bob Titmus, and no, that was John Green and Keith Chiazeri, and that was the dog, whatever the hell the dog's name was. But that was the truth to it. But you see, MK spins this whole yarn, and that's all people are doing is spinning yarn out of what they think, not what they know. So. Including, that's why we can't make any concrete analysis. We can say it doesn't sound good, right. But we can't say with any definity unless we see from ourselves. And frankly, Eric Palikos, he's not being dishonest with this. He is just relaying what he saw and telling us what he saw. So, we shouldn't be doxing him. We should be thanking him because he's giving us insight of what's coming. Or would you all just like to be Pearl Harbored one day and it shows up on a network and we're like, right?
Oh, Reverend Quantum Bigfoot says, honestly, if it does prove it a hoax somehow, it will change my thoughts on a lot of things and make me a lot more skeptical. But I will still have some belief. Still, yes.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to make this bigger because every time you put up a text box up, and see, when StreamYard started, it wasn't supposed to do that. It was supposed to move everybody up. Right. See, the thing is, you can't have filth and filth. Yeah. Like, this is too small.
No, that's fine. If I'm smaller, that's great.
Here, you know what? Let me. Are you worried about your? We'll just block your camera out. That's
more
all.
Friendly to the people at home. Yeah. Here we go. That's better.
What the? Who in the did the?
Oh man.
But yeah.
Yeah.
We just have to wait and see. But people shouldn't be doxing Eric, and that's part of my language. But that's horrible. That is horrible. So
that's funny, Mark. Oh, Patrick.
That's funny. No, because the sad thing about it is you paid for an autograph. You didn't pay for the authenticity of a film, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise there's gonna be a lot of people from back that are still alive from the early 1970s asking, Roger for them for the money back for going to see the film at, today's prorated price of $12 to $15 back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Mike Bosnick said, I have a lot of trouble believing the people of the Bigfoot community are doxing and people on that level. I suspect something else is going on.
No, we've seen it before, Chris. Yeah, hell, do you know? Do you know I was doxxed before? I had a guy take a picture. Back in Muskie Allen.
Yeah,
I remember that douche. I mean, that guy's name. He started clipping pictures of my house, which was on a hill. And he tried to point out that because of the number of the house, it was like the basement was there, and then the level I lived, the first floor, you had to walk up the sidewalk and then up onto a elevated porch and in the house, right?
Right.
And my apartment was to the right. Well, there's a 5, right, on the door to the basement, right? Over that, because as you're driving by, you wouldn't be able to see the 5, but you'd have to be like, where's the house? Right? No, okay, there's the house. So he tried to, he put a picture of my house on the web.
Yeah.
Right? And said, that's where he lives in a basement. Look at that. No, I didn't live in a basement. I lived above the basement. You took a picture, just happened, the number happens to be, on the front porch, which is where the basement is.
Well, I still, I've got that other channel on here that I haven't put any videos on for a while.
But let me just say this.
Go ahead, finish up.
What you're saying is that Eric is lying, and I don't see how that's even correct, because Eric is not being doxxed; he's getting calls at his work.
Yeah.
And his work is receiving phone calls. And I don't know the nature of that. He did not elaborate because he's got a little bit of class. He doesn't name names. He doesn't do any of that of who's the bad actors. But the fact is that it does happen. Yeah. And the Bigfoot community, and I know you may think it's not, it is crazy enough to do that. I mean, just a few months ago, I had a guy kicked off of Facebook because he was threatening me with bodily harm because he didn't like what I said like 5 years ago.
Right.
Because I don't believe they can jump through portals and all that. He came on there and started cussing me out and saying, why don't you come fight me? Why don't you come, that kind of stuff. Right?
Well, yeah, that's
how about I show up at one of your events and kick your ass? Right? Well, go ahead there.
Oh, well, that's not acceptable. Yeah.
Right. Okay, go for it, tough guy. That's all I can say. But the fact is, it does happen. And when you put yourself out there in front of as many people as Eric has, right, And even on this channel, there are a lot. See, I have moderation on all the comments because every once in a while, not very often, maybe once or twice a month, somebody goes off kilter, starts the name calling bit, starts the threatening bit, and they automatically either get dumped or the filters dump them. So,
well, I have visitors every now and then from my channel.
You have.
And they, you know, as long as somebody wants to come by and knock on the door, it's not like I keep my, well, you know, I don't advertise my personal address and phone number and stuff online, but, you know, it's available if you look. And if somebody wants to stop by and be polite and courteous and friendly, I'll be more than happy to meet with them. And God knows why, but if they want a selfie, we can do that.
And Chris is more amenable if you bring ski.
Yeah, if you could bring a 12-pack of ski, that would be great, but not required by any means. But as long as everybody behaves themselves, I don't have a problem with it. It's no big deal. But now, if you think you're not going to behave yourself, I would like to remind you. Now, one of the businesses that I retired from and I closed shop up, I was one of the top 5 importers of machine gun parts in the United States at one point. So you better watch out. Don't come looking for trouble. Yeah. You might find more than you think.
Yeah, same here. I mean, it's easy to find out where I live. You can take all the pictures in the world. Unfortunately, I live in a private community, so you can't. No, mine is. You know, I don't have I don't have the A10 sound, but I do have the blast sound that comes from a tactical shotgun. But
everybody should behave themselves, you know, regardless.
Yeah. And you know, it doesn't mean I mean I've had my head in a swivel. Sometimes I go out in public. My car's marked up. My Bronco's marked up, so people know who I am. Yeah. And then they see that and they put one together. That's the guy I see on YouTube. And there's a lot of times I'll go to the store and somebody will say, "Hey, I've seen you on blah blah blah," or I'll go across town and somebody will say, "Hey, I've seen you on blah blah blah."
Yeah, right.
And it's a good conversation starter to get some, you know, experiences and see what to gauge people's public opinion. But, you know, you got to keep your head on a swivel because it's a nutty effing world out there. I mean, what was that girl's name? Christina Gimley, who talked, you know, who had her own little YouTube channel, became a YouTube sensation singing, and she got a live gig, and then one of the YouTube fans showed up there and unfortunately, that was the end of her. And you know, God bless her and may she rest in peace. That was friggin' horrible. So you have to, no matter what sphere you're in, that happens. So, you know, that's why we need to be careful. And, you know, being a voice like I have been for so many years, it can cause somebody to get very angry, like the nutcase in Colorado that we deal with that I had kicked off of Facebook.
Yeah, Alex says, good point. Some people online are emboldened to be belligerent. Putting yourself out there to the masses can attract some crazies. I've dealt with it as well over the small town monster stuff. A lot of sad, scary weirdos out there. Yeah, but there's a lot of good people too, you know, but you just got to be aware that there could be a crazy out there.
Sure. Why do you think we haven't opened up the phone lines on this topic? Because people will go bonkers, and I don't have time to sit there and hit the censor button, right? We don't have a 7-second delay here. So,
and we're remaining neutral. We're in the center here. We've not seen it. The only thing we're talking about is what we have learned from Eric and a few others. But
you know, we've done some of our own internal investigating as well.
Yes.
A lot.
Some of it is incredible, but we can't talk about that yet.
Right, but we don't want to take a phone call and, you know, the whole thing be...
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right, we don't want to do that. So we have to be careful with you know, it's just like, moderation. And I don't even know if I put the membership moderation on for tonight's episode. I may not have, but normally
everybody in the chat is always on their best behavior for the most part.
Right,
Thank you guys for being civil about this, because I know it has been it's a very
Passenger.
passionate subject.
Yeah.
Yes. Some people are their passions run high one way or the other.
I mean, it bothered me for a good 72 hours after the news broke that this film existed. And my stomach just sank. And, oh, my God, what's it going to do? And, I prepared myself. And you know what? To no surprise, being in high public relation type of events in my career, it's nothing like doxing. That's not unusual. You may think it is. You may say, well, that sounds kind of suspicious to me. No, it happened in 2008. It happened in 2008 when I friggin' put an end to that horrible Rick Dyer hoax. It happened again in 2012 when Dyer tried to come out and do stuff with that, and I debunked him there. It happens in these high public relation things. And, it's kind of screwed up. You want to know how reliable the Bigfoot community can be? And is that here's a guy who pulled the hoax in 2008, and by 2012, he had a strong enough following to make people believe that he had a body in actuality, and that this guy from Vermont, a so-called long-term investigator, actually wrote a book on it, stating it was real. So please spare me that the Bigfoot community is the all-knowing, because they've proven otherwise to follow this guy 4 years after not even a full 4 years. It was like 3.5.
Yeah. That's true, Reb.
Right?
Yeah, he could have rode that hoax, but he didn't do it because he has something called integrity. Yes, you've only got one. That's it.
I remember Carmine saying, "Listen, we know this is a hoax, but there's a way we can all make money here. We're gonna say the guys got scared and took their body back to Georgia, and then we're going to go on site NDAs and not talk about it ever again." And what he was going to do was make this friggin' bogus Bigfoot autopsy video and try to sell it to the network. That's exactly what that was all about. So, what happens instead is I debunk it, and all we hear is,
"Joan, get me a Snapple."
That's all we hear. Right? So, and that's why that became a thing.
Well, that thing really grew legs. I mean, it was international.
And you want to know the hate and the miss, even though I'm the one who busted the whole thing, right? The Blog Talk radio show we had done got like 31,000 views. My website was going crazy.
Yeah.
And what I got from Blog Talk Radio for 31,000 views on one episode, just during the live stream, there was 31,000 people, right?
Right.
$40.
Yeah.
$40 for blowing my whole weekend, losing a job over it because I quit a job to basically go there to see it because they weren't going to give me the time off, right? To kind of go there because I needed to be there to say whether this was real or not.
Yeah, right.
And obviously it was not, and I blew the whistle on it. I was getting emails from people saying, "Yeah, how much money did you make from all the clicks on your website?" It doesn't work that way, right? Right? I don't get paid for somebody clicking on my website, right? Who's paying me?
That's $20 a click. Woo!
Yeah. Right?
No,
yeah.
no.
Yeah. And like, oh yeah, that $40 in losing a job that I was making, 35 or 40 back at the time. Yeah, that was well worth it. But it was worth it to end that hoax. And in the face of somebody trying to monetarily make me lie, I said no. And I was the only one that said no.
Yeah,
I had, and I will say there were some people there that were reluctant to say, "Well, I'll go along whenever you want. You're the boss." That was about as reluctant as they went. Not me. I'm like, nope, no flipping way. And then they had to call him back and tell him that I had a problem with it. And then you hear him get really angry, and then say, "All right." And that was really the last time that I was ever on the phone with that dude. was when he hung up that particular time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I smelled something was rotten in Denmark, and that's why eventually I made that trip to Atlanta.
Yeah. You can read about this in 50 Large. Too,
Yep, and I got to the bottom of what really happened.
Yeah.
And then I got the police report, and that really got me the insight to what was really going on. Because there was statements written by everybody but the guy who made the most.
If you'll recall, like the current situation with Eric now, there were people in the Bigfoot community that were angry at you. Not for the fact. Well, I imagine a lot of them were angry because you busted it as a hoax and exposed it for what it was. But there were some that were angry at you because you wouldn't
commit.
Yeah, you wouldn't commit to implicating that guy out in California before you had the evidence to prove.
Correct. Because I won't call somebody a hoaxer if I don't have the evidence in front of me. Number one.
Right.
That's not how investigations work. Number two, I do investigations on my timetable, not what's popular. Right. And number three, the legal implications. If I was to sit there and say that, this, and that, and filth and foul, filth, he did this and that would be on me, and that would leave me legally in a bind.
If it wasn't true,
right,
you would be held liable.
So those are the 3 points. Now, there was a big breaking piece of evidence that I did not know about that came out right after my show or during my show. Did not know about that the DNA report that got sent to me was actually forged or manipulated. That was one. Right. But getting down there and going to the sites and getting the freezer receipt, which I got the freezer receipt, clearly because I had the whole timeline of where he was and when he was, right. and that proved that he couldn't have seen it frozen.
Well, to be fair, I think that was back during your Blog Talk days, and you were doing that one show from the airport.
I did one. I did a second show when I exposed the cover up at the airport. Yeah.
Right.
But
you guys had to run.
But a lot of people missed that because they were already on the hate train.
Yeah, well, for those that didn't know, Steve was in the den with these other people that were all for going with the hoax at that time. So, very, very precarious situation.
Yeah, it wasn't like the camp wasn't armed either. Right. I was the only one that wasn't armed because I come from New York, right? So, but everybody.
Yeah, you can't really pull your.
And I was the one who I flew. So, so everybody was packing that night except me. Yes, I would have some protectors in there that really did not know what was going on. That was JC and Leonard, and they had no clue what was going on at that time.
Do you remember, Steve?
Yep, there you go.
Oh man!
But that was quite the ordeal, and so I've been there. Yeah. I've been in the same place that Eric's been in, and people will dox you. People will do the craziest things.
Yeah. Oh, Tom Wilson's got a good point here. Tom Wilson says, got to give it up to whomever laid down that track line that Titmus followed around. That was one of the things.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people will use that to defend.
Right.
Right? Well, Bob didn't.
I went down that hole. I was that rabbit hole because I was taking measurements from that trackway and actually making tape marks on the floor and trying to step it out and stuff. And then Steve reminded me, if they faked the video, they could have faked the trackway just as easily. I'm like,
and left it there.
Right.
Well, so who cares? We'll just leave it there. And just in case somebody comes along and says, oh, look at these tracks. It'll just build more momentum for the film actually existing.
Yeah.
Genius.
And I'll give you one thing. I'll give you an example about how the skeptics are on
That's if it's a hoax. That's if it's a hoax.
Right. If it's a hoax. Right. I'll give you an example. I was talking about maybe making marks 65 inches, I think, or 64 inches. And I challenged them to try to do that, put the tape marks on the floor and step that distance without their head going down when they make their step. And one guy said he could do it.
Yeah. And
Impossible.
again,
Impossible.
you have Coco for, how did Peter Griffin put it? I'm caca for cuckoo puffs. When he got fired from that commercial.
I mean,
but people will say the craziest things on both sides of the argument.
Right. Yeah.
And our job here at Squatch-D TV, Squatchdetective.com, is to get through that nuttiness and try to bring sense to it all. Yeah. And the biggest sense I can say is we need to really see the film and the documentary with our own eyes, hear it with our own ears. Seeing is believing, hearing is believing, and that's it. Bottom line. And whatever you're hearing is fodder. People with agendas on both sides of the argument necessarily. I'm not saying Eric, because Eric has seen it, gave a honest review.
Yeah.
But if people are saying, see, I told you it was fake and blah, blah, blah. Well, if you haven't seen the film, you're just in the wrong as the other people right now that are saying this, right? If you're saying it publicly, you can have internal discussions. And I think that, Chris and I have had hours of internal discussions over the last week and a half.
Yeah.
And I think the responsible thing to do as a broadcaster is to just stay that neutral line right now, see how the film feathers out, and we'll watch it. And that's why and Chris, this is why I want to do a live reaction, is because I want people to see our honesty, not saying that we're saying this because it's the popular opinion, right?
Right.
That's the main reason for doing a live watching of this, you and me, on a particular night.
We'll try to do that. Yeah, we'll try to do a reaction video, but it's going to be kind of weird because we can't show the film or do the audio, but we can discuss the film while it's playing when we're watching it.
Right. We'll narrate it. We'll narrate what we're watching.
Right.
And for if it happens to show earlier in the day, then what we'll do is Chris and I will watch at 9. Many of you will already have seen it. We will not watch it until showtime. Right? And it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. It could be a Tuesday night we do this. It could be a Wednesday night. We'll watch it for the hour and 42 minutes, and then we'll do like an hour of talking afterwards, what we think, what our views are. We'll give Chris some, we'll each have equal time to say what we think, and then we'll leave it at that and let us digest it for the next show. And then, what...
Unroped note says Eric has an agenda. Well, how can we know that?
Hold on. Proof. Look, where's the proof?
Yeah, we're about the truth.
Show me some proof. Show me the money. Show me the proof. You can't say that.
I would gladly accept evidence that revealed that was fact.
Exactly.
Fact, yeah.
Exactly. What is the agenda? You think saying that the PG film is not real because he watched the video is the popular thing? No, you're wrong. Right? If he had an agenda, he's, I saw it and the whole thing's bullshit. And then he's the big hero of the Bigfoot community, right?
Exactly, right. Yeah.
Right? So wrong. There is no agenda here. When somebody breaks bad news to people, guess what? It's not that person that has the agenda.
Right, I mean, he said he never believed it. Okay. That it was real. Okay. Well, that's understandable.
Okay, I get that. I get that. I don't know if he did. He said he was open to it being real.
If he had a bias, that could be one of the problems with his review of the film. That's why, when you got to see it.
But I'm not saying that's necessarily an agenda, right?
Right.
That's why we all need to watch. We all have to have this proclivity of watching this.
Yeah.
And if I have a bias on the film now, it's because of research and, let me just say of how many years of listening to Dr. Meldrum and Bill Munns versus what we're going to see coming up and versus some of the stuff that I've done.
No. I can throw every bit of that out the window. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
So I've had bias. Right. What I've had is bias on one. Not bias, but we have to throw that all out the window and watch the evidence as it is. Right. Yeah, exactly.
You can have some confirmation bias or some bias about when you're having a discussion, but when you're looking at the evidence, you can't be biased. You got to
exactly.
This is what it is. If we like what it is, this is great. If we don't like it, well, maybe that's not so great, but that's still the way it is.
But there are some things in there that you have to admit are not subjective. Like looking at a film and saying, that's the film, that's subjective, right?
Yeah.
And for something to be subjective and and become a truth, it has to be generally agreed on by everybody, right? Or a lot of people. The majority has to agree upon that. Yeah, we saw the film and it looks like this, or it doesn't look like this, right? That's generally what's going to happen. Now, I'm going to say one thing about that. I'm going to put that aside for a sidebar, but let me finish my thought. But there are things in the film that are objective. What Patricia Patterson says is tantamount, right?
Sure. Yeah.
That's not something, that's an opinion. That's not something that bias controls. This is what he said was said. So we'll see if what he said was said. I do not believe Eric to be a liar because that would ruin his reputation. And he was nice enough, being the only person out there, to go see it, spend time to do it, and report back on it. Not one Bigfooter. You know, if it was such a big deal, why didn't some, like Eric says, why didn't some of the legacy media people fly into Texas to watch it and judge it for themselves? He was the only one that did it. Kudos to him. He was the only one that had brass balls enough to know about it, go down there, spend the money on it to see it. Now, granted, Eric does live in Texas, so it was not a great drive. It's not a great distance from, but he did his due diligence.
Yeah, and you know, if it's true that it costs $1,000 to get in, there's no way I would go in there and spend $1,000.
Right.
No.
Right.
I'm too frugal.
But he managed to work a deal out with the pass holder to get a pass into it. So he didn't pay the full $1,000, but he paid some ching for it. And he did not look happy about it. And he looked blown away about it because, let's face it, he may have been skeptical about the film, but when you watch that, I think the implications of what he saw hit him, right?
Right.
And that was universal. You can't fake that type of body language. I watched the video of him live as he reported in on it. And so...
And I'm interested in the details on the film, the new film that they found. I'm interested in that. Other than... You know, the date on the film stock, which, okay, that's fine. I can accept that it was 1966 film stock. But I want to know how they determined when it was shot or when it was developed. That's what I would like to know.
Yeah.
And I hope that it'll get into that. But if it doesn't get into that, then that's going to leave some questions unanswered.
But let me ask you a stupid question, because somebody made a good point about that, too.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody said, well, if it was made afterward, what if they used the same suit to film Al Diatley in it to see it? Right? You know, see, maybe let's compare. Let's see if Bob did a good job or Al does a good job. But we're gonna stick with the Bob Hieronymus
because
job.
We know
we don't know. We don't know what goes on there. We don't know yet.
But we do know that Roger was working on a documentary at this time, and we do know he had shot scenes, film like B-roll for this documentary. But
Bob Gimlin was always in Native American garb.
Yes, he had the long hair on. Yes,
and
the wig.
We never did see in any of that B-roll he was making, which I think that's all he ended up doing. We never did see a creature in it, did we?
No. Maybe not up until now.
So maybe that was going to be the creature for the film.
Maybe,
but that doesn't matter if it was or not. It turns out if that's the same suit that was in the 67 one, because according to Eric, they do a breakdown and showing the similarities in the two films. If that turns out to be true. You know, but like I said, if it turns out to be true that the widow of Roger Patterson said, yeah, the whole thing was blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry. She's closer to Roger Patterson than Bob Gimlin. Even though Bob Gimlin was there, she was the one who was behind the guy that filmed it. And she lived with that guy 24/7, long after, and of course, we showed some very interesting about the whole cash grab thing the other night, saying what is really the cash grab? Is it this guy with the film? By him pulling it out of the film festival, I'm sure he's already put his money in there to submit the film. So he's taking it out at a loss, because usually those fees are not refundable. Right? Just to protect in case there is some, for whatever reason, apparently they weren't happy with the security of the theater, but I digress.
And we don't know. I mean, at this point, we don't know Bob Gimlin's involvement. Did he know it was a hoax? Could he have been hoaxed?
Well,
we don't know.
Well, let's look at the evidence presenting in front of us right now.
Yeah.
Well, it's not presented in front of, but allegedly he's in the beginning of this other film.
Right.
So if that's him in the other film, then he certainly well knew what's going on. We've also shown on the air that, less than 2 months later, I think 5 weeks later, Al Diatley, Roger Patterson, and Bob Gimlin form a company called Bigfoot.
Yes, that was news to me. That was new.
Right, and that was news to me, too.
Did not know that.
They actually formed a company. So where is the cash? And that was the argument about the cash grab. You want to see a cash grab? 5 weeks after this, they're forming a company to go national with this film. It's not being, they worked on it very hard to capitalize and to make money off of it. Did they not? Mm-hmm. So people forget that. People think, well, they filmed this and this just went out there. No, they're, you're claiming this guy who made this documentary is doing a cash grab, right? But they did it too back in 67, 68 through 70. And we've got the proof for it. So it does not matter. Cash, right? Let's face it. Nobody does anything for free.
No. I would love to work for free, but, unfortunately I have to eat. And maybe
the grocers are not going to get it. If we just did our jobs and we got stuff for free, that would be either what Star Trek proposes, or it would be what true communism is. And we're all capitalists. Let's face it. At least me and Chris are. But that doesn't mean we're going to take advantage or we're going to lie to make money. That's just ethics. I mean,
some people do, but no, we don't do that.
I mean, you want to talk about ethics? You look at ethics in government. Right? A democracy. If you have bad ethics, you're going to have corruption. Same thing with communism. If you have bad ethics, you're going to have despotism, rather. Right? So, North Korea is supposed to be a communist state, but it's a despotic state. It's a dictator-led state. Has nothing to do with communism.
And DM Zabo says they said Diatley owned the rights to the film. Is that true?
No. Nope. And part of my research too, and I have done that months ago when I was showing Chris that I went through the copyright office, and I know who owns it. Al Diatley's name was never on as a copyright owner. It was Roger Patterson, Patricia Patterson, and Renee DeHinden for a little bit, and then it went back to Patricia Patterson.
Now, because of his status being in the community and having a little money, I think Diatley probably did send some money Roger's way.
Yep.
And,
well, the funny thing is, if Eric is lying, we've kind of proved one thing that he had said about that, is that in his breakdown, he said that Al Diatley lived in a very almost a sickening rich mansion. One of
the nicest houses.
The nicest place in Yakima, and it's just so sickly opulent. Wow. And then we showed that on our last cast on Friday night. We showed the Diatley residence and how it almost had its own golf course, this huge Olympic-sized swimming pool.
It's a compound
in front of a 3-story glass tower that's part of the residence. I mean, literally, you could put 4 or 5 different. You could probably put a dozen families in the house and all live comfortably.
Yeah.
Yeah, that house occupancy probably is around 100.
Yeah, if me and my wife lived in that house, we probably wouldn't see each other but once a week.
Yeah. Chris was saying he would need one of those, little scooty cards to get from one end of the building to the other. It was sick there. So that's been consistent, and it was nice. It was nice to kind of confirm if what Eric was saying was true in that one little fact, and it turned out it was.
Right. And Walter's got a good point here. Walter Kroll says, just like any claims, whatever the film presentation is, it should be vetted afterward. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whatever claims there are in this movie, all of the claims will need to be investigated.
Yep.
That's one of the questions I have, Walter, is, we know that it's 1966 film stock, but how do we know that when it was shot and when it was developed?
Well, I think the whole important thing about it is that there's a couple of ways of looking at this, right? Now Bill Munns says, "Oh, that's probably a Bob Gimlin imposter." Okay, that's a bit of a stretch, but I'm sure people will look at that and go, "No, it's kind of
don't know. We might have to see it."
yeah, but that's grasping at straws to me. Like somebody says that's Bob Gimlin in the photo. Oh, that's probably an imposter. Well, how can you say it's probably an imposter if you haven't seen the film? Right? He hasn't seen that part. Well, he did. I guess he did see the film. But for him to say, "Oh, that could be a Bob Gimlin imposter," that's grasping at straws. Yeah, that red splotch in the water could be blood, and this was a big massacre that happened too, right?
Well.
Right. It's the same type of argument. It's the same type of argument. You're making up your own sidelines and stories and machinations without seeing the actual evidence.
Right. And Steve Cure Scripted says there isn't a way to tell from the film when it was exposed or processed. It simply has to be taken in context with everything.
I agree. I agree. And guess what? Does it matter if it was taken in 67, 66, 69? If it's the same suit, it's the same suit. And let's also remember that we have testimony from Patricia Patterson that may come out. Now, again, we're only saying this is potential. I'm playing devil's advocate here. We do not know what's on that documentary for sure. We need to see it with our own eyes. So I will always preempt that with everything. That when I make these arguments, I make them to make sense to everybody. That, we're being a little bit on a tangent here. You're saying, well, maybe that was a Bob Gimlin imposter. Well, maybe it was Bob Gimlin. Occam's razor, right? No, that's not an imposter. That's actually Bob Gimlin. But we don't know. We do not know yet.
Well, Reverend Quantum Bigfoot says there could be also 32 Bigfoot faces in the trees through the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Yeah, MK tried that one too. Yeah, MK tried that one too. That was his first ploy. Right. Like, I think there's another one up there. And then he dropped that to it was carrying a hair braid or something in its hand to, I think her hair is braided to, there was a massacre. And then you start to see this pattern that MK had building this film up, right?
Well, you spend so much time looking at something and you start to see things that may actually not be there. Like there's this thing with pareidolia, and I captured a really good image of pareidolia with a camera one time, and it was the picture of Saddam Hussein's face in leaves. Okay, well, we know that wasn't Saddam. Okay. But
Jesus on the slice of toast, yeah. The whole issue there is that the guy did some good work. He ruined it all by looking deeply, trying to find more explanations than the film could provide.
He just sees more than I do.
Right, so, and that's an important step as an investigator too, is that you can only go down so many rabbit holes before you're like, what the hell am I doing? Right? And I've done that too as an investigator working real world cases. Well, maybe, wait. The simplest explanation is probably what it is. Right?
Yeah. Right.
and so I tend not to go down those rabbit holes. That's why I don't see 5 Bigfoot in videos. I don't see, all of that some people see. Like, I never believed that she had a braid, because he claimed that she had a braid at one time, and one time there was claims that there was one in the background. I never believed any of that. And I certainly don't believe any massacre theory, because there's a red spot. Now you're going to create this grand conspiracy in your mind. We have people speaking out of turn saying, well, this is the motive behind that. And it's cash, like I said, the main thing was the cash grab. Well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And we showed everybody last week the other side of that, saying it was a cash grab back in 67 as well.
Yeah. And Demigod X says, if it's shot after the PGF, then people can argue that it's a reenactment and rule out it being a test run.
So it rules it out as a test run. If it's the same suit, same costume, it's the same costume. Right? But if you look at things constructively, and you look at them time-wise, when you piece all of them together, such as Clint saying that he saw his father burning the suit, which is actually in print on the AOL interview with Mark Evans, right, where Clint saw his father burn the suit in a big barrel out behind his house, piece by piece. And it took him about 30 minutes.
That's reported.
And people say, well, you can't trust that. Yeah, we can trust it, right? We have to, because when you put evidence A with evidence B, because guess what? When they interviewed Clint, he didn't know they had this film yet. They don't really ambush him towards the end of the movie, according to Eric. Right. So the point being is, if this film fetters out to be true, what's being said is that Clint establishes the timeline of when the suit was destroyed. So therefore, if the suit is here in this film too, and it's the same exact suit, because they do some comparisons, I guess, in the film.
Yeah.
If it's that, we have a timeline and we know it wasn't shot after the PG film because the suit was destroyed. Right? So that cancels that all out. And that well, we don't know when it shot. Well, we have Clint's testimony that says he destroyed it after after October 20.
Right. See.
Right.
And that was one of the problems too, though. If he was making a documentary, of course he's going to have a suit. But after he filmed the Patterson-Gimlin film, if it was real, okay, well,
why would you burn a suit?
Having a suit around is not going to look good for your credibility,
Right, but if you have a suit around, why would you burn it if it wasn't in the film you filmed?
Yeah, right. That's a good point.
Right, because you would not, and that's a criminal psychology thing. Mm-hmm. If I film the real thing, I'm not going to be worried about a suit I have upstairs because that's not the same thing I filmed.
Right.
Right? So there'd be no need to destroy that.
Unless it was the same thing you filmed.
Unless it was the same thing you filmed. Exactly. Right. Yeah. Right. Now you're thinking like a real world investigator. Right. Yeah. Right. So that's.
But Steve and I got into this discussion before, about, we don't want to be anywhere near a suit. Even though for a documentary, it would be nice to have some reenactments because those play well with the audience, but still.
That's why AI exists now. I can use that to.
I don't want to have one. I don't want to have a suit in my home for sure.
Right. And they always make the Bigfoot look a little goofy enough to make sure that people know it's AI, not the real thing. Make it a little off tint or something.
Well, one of the podcasts I listened to that had Bill Muntz on there, Bill Muntz commented on it and said, "Well, it's the new film is obviously a suit." So, you can't look at the Patterson-Gimlin film and say, "Well, it's obviously a suit."
Well, here's the funny thing, is that you may say that, Chris, but when Roger Patterson showed it to a room full of scientists back in British Columbia,
right,
about half the room thought it was a suit.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's because they're not what we all have ingrained in our mind. The M.K. Davis version, the enhanced version, right? And we talked about that prior to this. That's the image that we have, is that black and white detailed patty. I want everybody to think about the original film that was kind of dark and off in the distance.
Yep.
Right? That's the film. What you see in M.K. Davis' work is a little clearing up, a little clarity. But how does that work, Chris? Well, I'll tell you how that works. Is that the prehistoric version of AI, which is CGI, where the computer makes the decision to what pixel to correct here and there and here and there, and then whenever you work on the computer, you can adjust a little few more filters to make the pixels do a few more things, and then you have this nice enhanced picture. From far distance, very old film, not the original copy.
Right.
Right. And what happens? It fills in when it thinks it should be there. So, there may be some detail in that film that wasn't in the original, and it wasn't pulled out of the original. It was added to the original.
Yeah, right? You can't see facial features in the original, but when you see those zoomed in things that are been really cleared up and stuff.
And guess what? That's something I know about because I've been working with video for over 36 years. Right? I've worked with video my entire professional career, analyzing video, analyzing dollar bills.
Corn Cob say, "Wait a sec, the real ones look like a person in a suit."
And the funny thing is that one of the stories I'm being told is that, well, Mellor said what he saw was a guy in a suit. Well, yeah, if it's a hoax, yeah, absolutely, you saw a guy in a suit. Yeah, that's nothing new, but you see how the twisting of that can be, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the Patterson's real, but when he said he saw a person in a suit. Well, yeah, that's what he saw. That's not a lie.
Oh, now Mick's got something here. He's talking about some confirmation bias here. It says, Steve, the reason why they all said it was a suit is because they already went into the viewing of the Patterson-Gimlin film with their minds made up that it isn't real because it couldn't be real. That might have been, what the scientists were thinking. Yeah.
Possibly. It's possible. But guess what? There are a few scientists that thought it had credibility.
Yeah.
Or that it's possible, right? But there was a few people that said that's obviously a suit. Now, we don't know where confirmation bias lies in, right?
Yeah.
The same could be said for the panel that watched, for the two neutral parties or three. Nobody mentions if Larry Lund saw the video and what Larry Lund said. I would like to know what he said in the movie.
Yeah.
Because Larry Lund did a lot of work on the Patterson-Gimlin film over the years, too. In fact, I think he may have one of the copies.
And Big Brick says, welcome, by the way. That suit that Bob H. had made in the late 70s, early 80s, I think it was later than that.
Okay, let me correct that. Mm-hmm. Bob H. did not make that. That was a Philip Morris creation.
Yeah, he had it made by
Philip Morris, right? Right? So guess what? One of the weakest points in Greg Long's book, The Making of Bigfoot, was the inclusion of Philip Morris. Right. Philip Morris's suit obviously was not the one Bob Hieronymus was describing. Exactly. Nor could Philip Morris say, oh, well, nor, because I'm inhaling, nor can, let me ask for the sidebar when I'm done with this statement. So Philip Morris's suit did not match with Bob Hieronymus's. For some reason, Greg Long, and this is where I say he got the tunnel vision, automatically said, oh, Philip Morris was the suit guy. And then he tried to marry these two things, and he shouldn't have done that.
Right.
He should have left that as an aside, right?
Yes.
But of course,
he did that because it fit his narrative that he had.
Right. And right.
Which was a mistake.
Which was a mistake. If he had left Morris out, his book would have been much more credible. But I digress. The sidebar to that is Morris, in seeing the film, said, oh my God, when I first saw the film, that's my suit. Well, why didn't you grab the record that you sold it? That would have been the perfect proof right there that it was your suit.
There you go.
No, because Philip Morris was involved in a number of lawsuits at the time of making the claim that he had made the Patterson-Gimlin suit, including with the Barney, because he was making knockoff Barney suits. And he got sued successfully and lost a few million, or I forget whatever the guy got, but I know it was pretty high. He lost money because he had to pay it to the company that makes that owns the copyright on Barney, because he was making knockoff suits on that, and he got caught on it. And that was the time he came out and said, oh, I was the guy who made the Patterson-Gimlin suit. Well, so I don't believe Philip Morris at all. So that whole suit thing, Philip Morris making it, I don't believe it at all.
The remake was hilarious.
Right.
With the Philip Morris suit and Bob Hieronymus wearing the new Philip Morris suit.
Right.
And you would think that the man, after how many years of practice making suits, would have gotten better.
Right. But, it looked horrible. Yeah.
But it was it was laughable.
Right.
Hilarious.
Right. Now I think that if this turns out to be true, nobody in fact I believe Mark Evans made a comment even that he doesn't believe Philip Morris had any involvement in this at all.
Yeah.
That's why he never went after it. He goes, on the surface, it looks weak. It wasn't the suit wasn't the same suit that Bob Hieronymus described.
Yeah.
So Steve, Philip Morris is a non sequitur.
Here's Cryptid Steve has a good point. It says stabilization alone doesn't need to change its film details. It can just be moving the frame to align the subject. And I agree with that 100%. Yeah. But I think what happens, though, is they would zoom in, particularly the shot of Patty's face. They would zoom in, and then they would start to fill in things that they thought were there.
Well, what happens is the computer does that. When you start applying filters, the computer will change the pixels and manipulate the pixels to change the actual a little bit to make more sense. Yeah. And it's not always correct. It's not always correct. That's why if you look at the still, it's got that blotch on the eye. And that I believe is not an actual blotch. That is actually film distortion from a spot on the film. And it looks like it's part of the creature, and it's not.
Yeah.
Or part of the, whatever, the subject, the unsub.
Bob Hieronymus said that was a reflection from his glass eye. And that was, I'm pretty sure it's a film defect. But we'll know maybe more about that later.
Maybe we'll even get a comment about some, teeth cleaning. But who knows? Chris knows what I'm talking about there.
Well, with Bob Hieronymus, claiming that he was the man in the suit for so many years, we never know. He may could have been, but why would he lie so many different times? About changing his story about the suit was made out of horsehide and it stunk, and then he changed his mind. Well, no, Philip Morris made the suit and it's made out of Dynel. And,
according to Hieronymus, he was saying it was made. Some of it was made of some Dynel, but the helmet was made with horsehide and an old football helmet.
Football helmet, yeah.
Right. Which could have been, because if you think the old style football helmets aren't like the gridiron helmets we see today, but they were the old leather caps. Remember the leather football helmets they used to wear? Right? Yeah. And I think that's what was made up, and he applied some according to Bob Hieronymus, he applied some horsehide to it, and it stunk. Of course, if you didn't cure a hide very well, it's going to stink, and even you start to sweat in it, it begins to stink.
Right. That was some of the problems I had with Bob Hieronymus's version of events. They kept changing.
Right.
And that's
I too would point out that, on one version he went right home. He didn't show anybody except, his family members that were there at home. Right. And in another version he stops off at the bar and says, check this out.
Yeah. Everybody in the bar gets to see the suit.
Now, but I will be truthful. Was that an edit? That got left out somewhere along the line to shorten the details on. I don't know. Because we have a written account, and reporters are not necessarily always the most accurate people too, which is why I'm very careful in reading some of the written accounts. And if something stands out to me, that was said. But if something's omitted, I don't hold that necessarily in print, because sometimes writers or journalists will omit things. It's happened to me where I've said a bunch of things to somebody and they omit like 50% of it to keep to their narrative. So you got, in retrospect, being a more mature investigator than I was 20 years ago, I can kind of see where, that may be a stretch to say that he changed his story, because we have it in print. But what he said orally was, what he said in print was that he went right home, or he went home and his family, he omitted the part about the bar. But did the newspaper or the written word get omitted out of the story? And we're just assuming that's what he said completely. Right. So and then we have the oral story, how he went to the bar and showed people in the bar, look at my trunk. And then he dropped it off at I forget who he dropped it. He dropped it off to Patterson. Yeah, I think he dropped it off at the Pattersons. And then
after he showed it to everybody and his brother.
Right.
One of the other things I had a problem with, though, too, is when they did the remake with the Philip Morris suit, Bob Hieronymus didn't know where the film site was. That bothered me too. That's like,
but you know what?
It had been a long time.
Yeah, Bob Gimlin didn't know where the site was either. He didn't take them right down to where it was. Of course, things change over time.
That's true.
Right? It doesn't matter if it's. I mean, I remember the Pridgeon film. Remember that was shot in 97, and I had gotten it in 2003, early 2003. Right. And I didn't get down there till, I think, 2012 with the producers of Finding Bigfoot. And you couldn't, I looked at the overhead shots in 2003. You couldn't recognize the place because it had been turned into an like a dirt bike in,
Right.
you know,
ATV park.
ATV park.
Gotcha.
And when I went down there, you know, the ATV, you couldn't even tell it was an ATV park at one point in time. So it was so overgrown. You're like, I can't even tell what tree this is. Maybe over there. I think that's where it was. But couldn't be 100% sure exactly what the tree was or anything like that because it's been so overgrown. And by all admission, it took a long time at the Bluff Creek project for them to find the right location. And then they claim, you know, Streufert was part of that, Steve Streufert. But they also, remember, they also said MK got the wrong spot.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Let's see. Okay, I'm going to put this up, Mick. Mick says nobody seems to be discussing the physical impossibility of Patty being a man in a suit. You could never line up the eye sockets, forehead, nose, mouth, and chin with any human proportioned head. And that's true, but maybe they weren't lined up if it was a suit. Maybe they weren't lined up.
No, if you listen to Bob Hieronymus's talk about that, he says that he was having trouble seeing it. He had a very limited amount of view.
Right, the eye sockets could have been up
and
here.
again, Mick, you can't see the eyes in the original film, right? Again, you're looking at this CGI enhanced video where, you know, it's been processed through filters and everything like that. So again, it's putting pixels where they believe they should be. If you look at the original, you can't see the face at all. It's a smudge.
Yeah, Sally says, I'm wondering if that would be discussed at all in the film, the addition of the limb proportions too. Yeah.
Well, the limb proportions are very easy because we have Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin both have opposing views to that back in their interview by Jack Webster on October 26, 1967, where Bob Gimlin says that the arms extended past the knees, and Roger Patterson said, "Well, I think Bob's getting a little overexcited here. You know, no, the arms did not extend past the knees,
Right.
so there's a little bit of conflict." And again,
that was 6 days, right? 6 days after the encounter, so that's fresh in their mind. Bob's seeing it with the hands below the knees,
and Roger not.
Roger stops him. No, I think Bob's getting excited.
Yeah. So it does not matter where the arms are, because you know what, you can put. I mean, there's suits today that the arms, you know, are practically knuckle dragging, right? Because they have extensions in them.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, that could have been thought of too if they extend, but it doesn't. If you actually watch I mean, the one thing you can trust about some of these enhancements is the limb proportions, right? Yeah. And they don't seem that all out of whack with a human being. And in fact, Roger described it as very human looking, right? Except it was big, you know. What we got for us, Chris? Anything?
Well, I think Roger was no dummy, regardless, one way or the other.
No.
Let's see. Mick says, if Munns is in it, he'll have mentioned it, talking about the limb proportions. But since he's not in favor of it being the same as Patty, they'll have edited his words out to twist it to say the opposite. That's why we need to see this thing, Mick. Yeah.
Oh, they didn't twist, you know, again.
Well, you know, we don't know. We don't know.
Yeah, but again, we're stretching. We're assuming, they must have twisted his words. That's bias.
Yeah. Steve says, limb proportions, some adjustment can be made with hand extensions and or boots. Heels.
Yeah.
Right. Lifts.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, look at Robert De Niro.
Hey, Mick, if you're out there tonight, after the show, give me a holler.
Demigod X, again, welcome. He said it was shot on film. Those are high quality. You ever seen them scan a film to 8K? Yeah, I mean, the film is put together with grain, and that's like little tiny dots, and that's much better and much finer than pixels.
Absolutely.
And so when they scan it into 8K, you know, of course, those pixels are extremely small, but I'm not certain that the 8K would be better than the
truthfully,
film. You know?
Truthfully, MK's version to me, seemed more like a creature than the 4K version, which kind of gave me a little bit of doubt when I saw how that moved. I don't like the 4K version. I'm looking at it very differently when I saw that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So, hey,
Yeah.
Chris,
Steve Curious Crypto said modern 16mm film is hardly worth digitizing in 4K. Even an expert ideal exposure and processing 4K expands the film grain into visibility. Yeah, I agree, 100%.
Yep.
That's the thing, you're still using pixels when you digitize it, and the film grain is really dots, and a dot is normally smaller than a pixel. So if you have negatives, it's very good, much better than something saved on an SD card.
Sorry, I was just checking on the offices, and he has relocated off his chair
Is he
to
doing
the floor.
okay?
Yeah, he relocated off to the floor. We sound asleep right now.
Yeah.
Because I hear him snoring every once in a while.
J. Michael Videos says MK scanned a 4K version. I had a copy of that for a while. I remember it was hard for my computer back then to play it. Yeah.
Hey, there's Jay Michaels. Good to see you, Jay. Long time no see, man. How you doing, brother?
MK has done a lot of work on the Patterson-Gimlin film. A lot. And, some of the most, which is a feather in his cap, and I think where he's took it frame by frame and stabilized the walk that we could see. So, I've always said that, I give MK credit for the work he has done.
Right.
It's just, I just can't agree with everything that he sees. I don't see everything that he sees in there.
Right.
But man, he's done some quality work as far as clarifying it and aligning it.
Absolutely. In fact, MK Davis was the first guest on Squatch Detective Radio.
Yeah.
It's Henry May and MK Davis, because Henry May loved MK, and I got them both on for the first episode. So it was really nice to. In the first episode, we talked about the enhancement of the Patterson-Gimlin film. So, it's not like this channel does not have a long history. It's been with this channel since day one.
Yeah.
Back in 2006. 20 years coming up, Chris. 20 years in September.
Won't be long.
I can't believe I'm doing this. 20 years on the air.
Speaking of Henry, don't forget to check out Henry's channel, HBM May's Cryptid Corner. He's on YouTube, and he puts some stuff out that's pretty cool to look at every now and then. I'm sure he would appreciate the views.
I have to redo my soundboard because I got things so fakakta on this thing that I'm like looking for certain things, but can't find them like on the fly. So, anything else in chat there? We got some more stuff there.
Well, Sally's talking about their unique limb ratio in different species. If it was a suit, would these guys have been educated enough to rig the suit to present a different ratio or not? Thomas C. almost discussed this ratio. Discuss this ratio.
Right. And what I think is, I'm sure there were some things that they discussed if this was a hoax, right?
Right.
I look at it as that how many fake tracks have I seen with arches? How many fake tracks have I seen with the balls of the foot in them?
Right.
Not everybody is perfect in when they try to deceive. So they may not have thought about limb proportion. They may just think it's like a prehistoric man, and let's remember that there was some proclivity on the part of Roger Patterson seeing a Bigfoot with breasts, as he was kind of very well attached to the William Rowe incident, which the Bigfoot had breasts.
Yes.
In fact, he even redrew the painting that was done of William Rowe's incident for his book in 1965.
Right.
So
that was one of the things that was kind of
that was kind of a little bit of a flag.
Yeah. Well,
and one thing that's one of the cracks that, to me, that's always hung on me. It's like, wow, he's got some pretty good precognition there. He's drawing a Bigfoot with breasts, and he just so happens to film a Bigfoot with breasts. I mean, one would suppose it's a 50-50 chance, but That's why, is it a red herring? I don't know. Is it a red herring or a flag? I don't know, because it's a 50-50 chance.
Well, and there was something else that caught my eye when I was watching some of, oh my gosh, brain fog. I was watching some Bigfoot videos and documentaries over on our good friend channel, and Todd
Prescott.
Todd Prescott's channel. Sorry,
over
Todd.
Over at the Sasquatch Archives. Yep.
Yes, Sasquatch Archives, Todd Prescott's channel. And one of them, he mentioned that in Charles Edson's book, My Travels with Bigfoot, that he mentioned seeing Roger and Bob on October 20th, 1967. But now Edson was the sheriff of Siskiyou County. But we have reason to believe that he may have not been too accurate on some of the things he did.
Oh, yeah, because he came out with a film of a picture of a Bigfoot that was obviously a costume.
Right.
Several years later. So to me, he was just a guy making claims to tie himself into the Bigfoot mystery.
But he did make that claim that he did see Roger and Bob at Bluff Creek.
But he's very obviously involved with hoaxing. So we can take his claim and
that claim, may not be worth too much.
Yeah. There's
it is worth mentioning,
because he's got a picture of a Bigfoot walking towards him.
Yeah, usually they kind of go the other way.
Right. And it doesn't really look like a Bigfoot. Like, you see the Bigfoot's there, and the only thing you can't really see is the face. Like, why can't you see the face?
Right.
That's because it's not a real Bigfoot.
And Manimal 9871 says at Big Brick Hateful, indeed, without having to look down at all, either with such a smooth gait, with that abnormal stance, it truly would have been the hoax of the century, honestly. And that's another thing, if this turns out to be a hoax, they got the walk down pat. How did they do that? That smoothness of these things, because that's the way these creatures move.
Well,
they move smooth, like.
Well, if you watch Bob Hieronymus walk, he walks very similarly.
I've seen documentaries.
Yep.
And it shows him,
so,
yes.
If it was somebody else in the suit, they could have been bobbing a little bit. Who knows? I'm not sure. We can sit there. Could that be a bias that it's actually walking smoothly? How somebody walks and is there a similar gait between Hieronymus and that? Well, we don't know, because it's much too late to determine whether or not that did the chicken come, what came first, the chicken or the egg in that particular case. Like I said, those are red herrings. Like, let's focus on what this film says and what the new stuff comes out. And there's a lot of science and there was a lot of descriptions of plantar foot pressure and stuff like that. Well, that was one of Dr. John Napier's problems with the tracks, was the plantar foot pressure didn't look accurate. And, obviously we have another scientist who felt the opposite, and that was Dr. Jeff Meldrum. So you have two scientists with opposing points of view, which tends to tell me, guess what? That stuff is all subjective. What's going to be objective is looking at the suit, seeing if it matches to what we've seen in the, in the original.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter what came first, the chicken or the egg. The bottom line is, if it's the same suit, it's the same suit.
Yeah. I think it was a BBC documentary that I watched. They were trying to debunk the Patterson-Gimlin film, and they featured Bob Hieronymus, and they did show he had that distinct, smooth walk.
Right.
They showed a side view of him walking.
But 40 years later, or 30 years later, whatever it was, we don't know what came first, the chicken or an egg. He could use the John Green argument, like I said, that I've always wondered about, and I thought kind of was a kind of confirmation bias cop-out, was, when the Blue Mountain Ridge tracks look exactly like all of Ray Wallace's stompers. And then John Green's explanation of that was that Ray Wallace fashioned the stompers after the Blue Mountain tracks. Well, what if he was the one who put the Blue Mountain tracks down first? John Green did not want to hear about that. And no discredit to John Green, great man, love the man, but sometimes that happens to folks. We've all made mistakes. I've made plenty of them. And if this turns out to be the hoax of the century, as John L. Johnson had put it in his film, then I was wrong, and I'm man enough to admit it. Because I said I was on the fence about it, but I always lean towards the authenticity of the film.
Yeah. And Girly Bigfooter, excuse me, says, question, weren't there tracks taken at the site the next day? How does that factor in?
Great question. And no, the tracks were taken the same day, at least from Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin. A few days later, Bob Titmus goes out there and finds the trackway. So let's just say, for example, you fake a trackway so you can glyph some prints, and you leave the rest of the trackway there, right?
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter because it's secondary evidence. We don't know what made those tracks, do we? We didn't actually see in any of the film the tracks on the same reel as we saw Patty. And that's huge to think about. You got to kind of think about in that kind of aspect, is we have two separate film reels. So we really don't know when that second film reel was shot. Was it shot the same day? Was it shot the next day? Was it shot 3 days later? We don't know. We're only saying it was because that's what they said. But if the suit's fake, then the tracks are going to be fake. Simple as that. And no bones about it. But see, I know people are trying to use the tracks to support the film. That doesn't work. If we look at this and it turns out to be a suit, then we know the tracks are fake. We don't have to worry about that. There's no question about that. We can't say, well, what about the tracks? Well, if they can fake a suit, it's a lot easier to fake tracks. People do it all the time. Just look on Facebook.
Yeah, that got me, man. I went down that rabbit hole with the trackway, the measurements and stuff. I did.
Yeah, but that was different because you were under the assumption the whole thing was real.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. So you were trying to figure out, from your own stance there.
Right. What was the stride and stuff like that.
Right. And truthfully, I have too. In fact, I have a chapter in my book about the Patterson-Gimlin film based on the work of Bill Munns and Dr. Jeff Melton. Right. I was leaning towards it was real. Come on. But I always, and Chris can attest to this as my wife, that I always had some reservations about certain things, and that seemed a little strange.
Yes.
And then, I started.
All we can do is say whether we like evidence or we don't like evidence because we weren't there when the evidence was taken, especially video. Okay. Right. That's the fair thing that we can do. We can't.
Right. And what I am trying to be is unbiased and objective, So you throw me an argument, let's take a look at what the reality of it is. Reality is we know nothing about the tracks. We don't. We kind of have an outline of how they were made, and I will get into that at some other point in time if necessary. If this turns out to be bullshit, pardon my French, on the dock, then we don't have to worry about ever going into it. But
yeah, Jay, it's almost wrong one. But Jay, it's almost 60 years that we've been talking about these things.
Yeah, 60, brother, 60.
Yeah. So
but we're talking about it because all of a sudden it has relevancy again.
Yeah.
And it always, if you think about it, the reason why we've been talking about it so long, because that was the golden fleece of Bigfoot evidence. There's the photograph. There's the film evidence that Bigfoot exists. Right? So, of course, it's always been relevant to talk about.
Oh, Jim Jernigan says, so if this was a hoax, what is the best evidence for Bigfoot that exists?
Great question, Jim. Good to hear from you, my brother. Love you, man.
Good one.
Jim and I have been in the field together many, many years ago, so it's good to hear from. What does it say about what's the strongest piece of evidence? Something I've always said was the strongest piece of evidence. The multitude of witnesses over 3 or 4 centuries reporting the same thing, reporting the same types of smells, reporting the same types of behaviors since man has walked North America, from the Aboriginal Native Americans to the European settlers to modern man today. That's what I think is the greatest piece of evidence.
Yes. But there's nothing wrong with remaining skeptical until you see it with your own eyes.
Right. You see how much more sharper I am when I'm not looking at the chat? I can actually formulate my thoughts instead of being sidebarred. That's just my ADHD, though. If I keep the chat open, I'm like...
Girly Bigfooters talking about the trackway again. So, however, wouldn't it be easy to determine if tracks are real or fake just by the tread lines or toe splay? Well, those were made in sand, so that's really
well, it would be. But I only have one of the Patterson tracks, and I don't have access to the other tracks. Right? I have this one right here, right? And again, without actually being on the ground to see the track.
Yeah. You got to
you really got to be there to see some of the motion and the kinetics of it. So yeah, it's always kind of difficult when, sometimes people take some nice good snapshots of them nowadays because we have better cameras nowadays. So that kind of puts us there in a way, and there you can tell. But back then, from what we see from the Patterson trackway, we see very little of it. I mean, we got maybe 10 seconds of it, and then we got Roger pouring the cast, and that's it. That's it. Done. What would have been more interesting was, them putting the film on the plane and flying it out to Seattle like the story was.
Jay Michael wants to know, when's the anniversary of the Bigfoot in the freezer? That will be a good show.
Oh my God! Let's see. That will be.
I've still got a couple on my mind.
we got a couple of years for that one there. 2028 will be the 20th anniversary of that one. And I'm sure we'll do something because we'll still be here, Chris.
Hopefully. Tomorrow's not promised.
Sure it is.
Mike Stetton says, does the Bob Gimlin hypnosis session factor into his credibility as it relates to the original Patterson-Gimlin film?
Oh boy. Now that's a good question. So can I make one observation that's may anger some people?
Well, you can. Go ahead.
I watched that. What did Bob say in that hypnosis interview that he hasn't said before? I can't find a single thing. Just saying. And there is one thing he says that, to me, puts the whole hypnosis session in question. And I'm going to leave it at that. And that's your homework assignment, folks. What do you think that statement was that I think is kind of odd? Watch that film. It's on Flash of Beauty, the Bob Gimlin hypnosis interview. Watch it. There is a statement that Bob makes that, to me, I don't think he was hypnotized.
Personally,
but here's the thing. People often will argue the point about a lie detector test not being valid.
Yeah.
Hypnosis is even looser, right? There's no machinery there. There's some guy saying, oh yeah, he's hypnosed. And by this guy's own admission, the guy who administered the hypnosis session had confirmation bias of the Patterson-Gimlin film, by his own admission.
I don't believe in hypnosis. I think it's just a scam.
It can be. It depends on if you don't want to be hypnotized.
Don't believe it. Yeah. Don't believe it. Now, I do believe in the power of suggestion.
But you see how silly. But do you see how silly people are so desperately trying to prove that the Patterson-Gimlin film is real? Well, here he is hypnotized.
Well,
that proves nothing. What about Bob Hieronymus' lie detector test, which he passed? Yeah. I mean, that was at least a little bit objective because you have the readings off the machine.
Yeah.
Here we have nothing except, more opinion. Oh, Bob is hypnotized. Well, how do you know? Well, I believe he's hypnotized. I mean, how do you know? At least on a lie detector test, you can go, well, here it is right here.
Where the needle jumped here on the scale. That's when he did that.
Right. But you see how the needle stayed the same here.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least you have some kind of formula there. But let's face it, hypnotic interviews and lie detector tests are not admissible in court.
No.
So we're going to throw them all out. Now, allegedly, Roger Patterson took a test, and I actually found the article which said he took a lie detector test, but there is no other than somebody saying he took a lie detector test, we have no evidence of him taking an actual lie detector test. So because I dug into that.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to assume that
don't know anything about the person that gave it to him or anything
Right,
else. Were they
right.
certified? Were they trained?
Yeah, and let's look at Justin Smeha's lie detector test where he supposedly passed too.
Yeah, he didn't pass mine.
Right. Right. So yeah, hypnosis, lie detector test, they're all not admissible in court. So for the subject of the Patterson-Gimlin film, we are ruling those out as well.
Right. And Girly Bigfoot's got another good point here. I'm going to bring it up. It says, I have a hard time thinking a Bigfoot footprint with mid-tarsal break, splay, depth, all the factors could easily be made in a fake track. There are too many variables.
Well, Chris and I had a very interesting conversation.
Yeah.
And Chris, I don't think this is a big stretch to say. And that's why we're looking at this objectively.
Right.
And according to Roger Patterson's brother-in-law, Roger would drop he would make, according to Roger's brother-in-law, he would make 20 to 30 pound molds of casts of Bigfoot prints. And he would say he dropped them. Now we know in the trackway, there's nothing but the tracks and horse prints next to them.
Right.
And if you dropped a print from there, you'd have to get off your horse to pick it up, right? So what would you do? Tie a rope around it, right?
Yeah.
And where would that rope be, Chris? Right down the middle.
It probably would, yeah.
Stupid luck, right?
Yeah.
Well, I got a very interesting question. And this I want to pose to everybody too.
Make yourself bigger.
I am going to.
Yeah.
So, notwithstanding, does that look like a mid-tarsal break to you? Or does it look like somebody fashioned a rope to drop it and then wheel it back up? I don't know. Because the mid-tarsal break I look at, that is a line. That is not a bump or a ridge. That is a straight line going from one side of the foot to the other. That's not how a mid-tarsal break works.
Yeah.
So that, to me, can be an issue. Just saying. So if you take, because what I'm doing is I'm doing a deep dive in everything that was said about Patterson-Gimlin film, pro, con, everything, right? So could that have fooled people to say, oh, that's a mid-tarsal break? How did he know about that? Just dumb luck. Because there is his brother-in-law stated that he would take them and drop them. That's what he claimed to have done to make these prints. And then I would fill them with plaster and say, oh, look, my Bigfoot prints. Mm. So, and that was coming from Patterson's brother-in-law. And that wasn't a cash grab, folks. He didn't get paid to say that.
Right.
And that wasn't from Capturing Bigfoot. That was The Making of Bigfoot by Greg Long. So there is some stuff that, we have to look at now with a little more keener eye. Like, okay, if this is a hoax, how would they have done the footprints? And we've kind of discovered it. And looking at my print, that does not look like a mid-tarsal break. It looks like something was fashioned to it, and it was dropped. It could have been dropped, like Roger had said. So I'm not saying that's what happened. But you want to talk about devil's advocate? I can play devil's advocate with all the evidence all day long.
I would have loved to have been there and seen the trackway, but I was only 1 year old at that time, so I would have loved to have seen it because it's not. You can't just look at one print. You've got to look at the entire trackway.
Right. And there might be some that the rope didn't capture, or they could have smoothed it over, but. The one thing I will say is those casts are awfully narrow at the heel.
Yeah.
That's the one interesting. I mean, these are some observations. Not trying to poo-poo anything right now. Like I said, I have defended the Patterson-Gimlin film hundreds of times over the years. Including in my book I wrote last year. So now it's kind of taken the mask off me to kind of look at the other side of things a little bit more in more detail to see if they flesh out or not. And you have another foot, which is the left one, which doesn't capture.
Jim Jernigan says, does that line exist in every cast? No. Here is a left foot, and it's not there.
Right.
Yeah.
But did that get smoothed out in the process?
It's
Again,
possible. This is a copy. This is a copy.
But I mean, I'm talking about in the casting process.
Yes.
What if that one slipped by and they said, "Ooh, we got to get rid of this line here."
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we're assuming that. And the other thing too is a mid-tarsal break. If you look at those prints, right? Remember, I've talked about this in the past. That and Chris is laughing because.
Oh, I'm laughing because Mick's killing me over here.
No. But if you look at the prints, mid-tarsal should show as a ridge in a cast, right? But if you look at the prints that are on the ground, the mid-tarsal break is a bulge. So that should be a divot in those casts, not a bump. Right. So, and as you know, mid-tarsal breaks should be a bump in the cast. And these they are, but if you look at the prints on the ground, it looks like there's a bump in the ground. So what a cast is the exact opposite. So there should be a divot in the cast. So I have no idea. We have no idea about these prints. There's not enough pictures of them taken aside from very grainy 35 millimeter film at a distance a bit without any real detail to them. So we'll just leave it at that. But again, the prints are the secondary evidence. If a suit can be made and faked, so can the prints. You cannot sit there and say, well, the prints are real, but the suit,
So that's the thing. If they did fake the video, then they obviously faked the trackway.
Right.
Yeah.
And guess what?
Yeah.
If the scientists can be fooled on the suit, they can be fooled on the tracks.
Right.
If I can be fooled on a suit, I can be fooled on the tracks. And this may be the exact case. I've never really looked at the tracks before the last week or so.
I'm not saying that Roger did anything wrong, but I am going to say that Roger was no dummy.
Right.
This man knew how to track. He knew what Bigfoot tracks look like. Could he have recreated a trackway? Obviously, he could have. Yes.
And Bob Gimlin is a self-admitted tracker.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, obviously, yeah. It could have been done. Not saying they did, saying it could.
Right. Exactly. We still need to see the evidence.
Right.
And mind you, I'm not making a stand here on anything. I'm just presenting the evidence on both sides.
Right.
And yeah, like I said, read my book, Bigfoot: A Science. You want to read, Bill Munz's and Dr. Jeff Meldrum's workups on the suit and on the mechanics, on the footprints, on all that. It's all there. It's all there. Like I said, I'm not sitting on the
mid-tarsal strap. Yes, that's what that is.
Could be.
Steve come up with a good one there. Oh yeah, Jim says if it's a hoax, man, I would love to own the original suit. Can you imagine having a piece of that history? Yes, boy.
You know what I think would be better than the suit is the film. I wish we could get the original film. That would be really cool. If somebody would come out. It's the only canister of film that's missing is this original film.
That would be cool.
That would be real cool. Somebody's got to have that original reel.
So I said that line is very damning. It don't look.
Yeah. So it's the same thing.
It don't look great. It don't look great. I love this about it's just a mid-tarsal strap. I love Steve's videos too. I haven't been over to channel. Check out Curious Cryptid's channel sometime, guys, because he's got a lot of nature videos and stuff on there. I don't know if he's put anything up lately because I haven't been looking lately. Sorry, Steve.
The office assistant has sequestered himself back to the chair.
Oh, well. I guess he's waiting for his snack.
Nah, he's just looking tired, that's all. He's had a busy day today with company.
Yeah.
Now he's looking at me like you're talking about me again.
And Girly Bigfooter is making a point. Yeah, we're not arguing that this is happened. No. Right. No, it's just it's a possibility, That would be one way of doing it if the trackway had been faked. Not saying that's what they did, no.
Yeah. And we don't even know. And truthfully, we do not even know if the plaster we saw being poured in the film is the tracks that were presented.
Yeah.
Right? There's no provenance to any of this, right? Yeah. Except Roger saying, here's the tracks.
Yeah.
Right? They could have been made anytime. He could have had them pre-made or ready to go, and here you go, here you go, here you go. And that's all the rest of the stuff could have been done just for the film. You have to look at the reality of things. There's no chain of evidence here. There's no chain of custody. I'm just saying this from a investigator standpoint.
Oh, this is Nikki. Nikki says, Sasquatch teacher. So Carmen Biscardi is throwing out pics of a suit and being cryptic about other pics. Do you know about that stuff? Huh.
No idea, but Carmine, I don't believe anything. He's going to try to capitalize on this anyway.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But
he may even have the original Patterson-Gimlin suit.
No, he don't have that.
Yeah, he could say he dug it out of Roger Patterson's burn barrel. And
oh yeah, of course, yeah. Of course.
We put it back together after we dug it out of Roger Patterson's burn barrel. This is the suit.
We've reconstructed it. And by the way...
Don't get me a Snapple.
Yes, it could happen. I'm just kidding, but,
Yeah, I have no idea. Of course, they're going to try to capitalize on anything they can. Again...
yes.
Again...
Bill Munns did... Whoops. Bill Munns did go to Patricia Patterson's house and scan the film frame by frame. He definitely did.
The only one that's missing is the original.
Right. That was a copy that Bill scanned. But it was a, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was a first generation copy or something like that. It was like one of the better versions.
Right, yep.
But I know Bill has got several different copies that he has scanned multiple copies of the film. And, each one would have a little bit different appearance than the other one because obviously if it's been played through a projector, you're going to get some wear from the reels and stuff. And that's why, without a doubt, Bill Munns has done some of the best work on this film that you could ever hope to have. And we're lucky to have it. Still, Bill Munns is my hero. But, if we end up not agreeing on this, then we end up not agreeing on it.
Happens. It happens.
Yes.
But, why do people, if they have disagreements like this, especially over this, or just a hatred and vitriol?
No. Nothing like that on this end, for sure.
No, not at all.
That line could have been debris in the footprint from Vinny, or Vin 1. Debris in the foot. I find a lack of foot anatomy details and that it's so flat and uniform more inducive probably of a fake.
Yeah. Yeah, but that line is pretty consistent across.
It doesn't look like a stick.
And the other thing, too, is there seems to be a little bit of a roll.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Like if you look at the fine detail of that, and maybe after this is all said and done, I'll take a look at this,
right?
And I'll show what I'm saying that there is, because there seems to be some patterning.
Yeah,
in a very small piece. Of
Steve seems to think it could have been a stick. Yeah, stomped into the stand. Well, I thought that did too. I did. I saw it, and I thought that too at first. But once I looked a little closer at it, give them a close look, Steve.
No, I can't. I can't. Yeah. This is too heavy.
Okay, I'm sorry.
This thing weighs about 30 pounds, 40 pounds.
To me, it appears to be constructed of something that is wound.
Yeah. It's not. And see, here's the interesting kick about this is it goes up the side of the foot. And it narrows at the side of the foot, right? So it does not look. In fact, there is a slight pattern to a portion of it too. Like there's some cross sections. So whatever it is, it is.
We don't know that to be true. This is just an observation from what Steve has.
Right.
Mine doesn't have that. Mine doesn't have it. Right. But Steve's probably got a better copy than I do. And mine is to the left, I think, and Steve's is right.
And mine comes from Dr. Jeff Meldrum, who got it, who made them via the scans of the originals. So,
yeah, it's got kind of a twist in it, Steve.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. That was the thing, you know, at first I thought it was a stick too. Then I saw that and I was like, well, wait a minute. The stick theory is not looking good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and the fact is, it goes up the side of the track. If it was a stick, it would only be on the planter surface.
Right.
But it goes up the side.
Yeah. That's a problem.
That is a problem. That is a problem. I'm going to have to pull that out of the case and take a better look at it when time comes. But I can see almost, because I got the way the foam is, I can see it goes around. It bends on the side of the foot. And that certainly wouldn't be a mid-tarsal break. That would be indicative of something else. Just saying.
Oh. Yeah, what we need is a skull. That's all we need.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, guess what time it is?
Oh, my goodness. I don't know. What's this? This is an accusation?
What?
No,
he's talking about the Smoking Man and the X-Files.
Oh, yes. Love that show. Already. Well, dang, it's been fun. Seemed like it flew by.
Sure did.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We appreciate having you. And it's always an honor that you would choose to spend your time with us. Thank you so much. We appreciate each and every one of you. And we know that this is only possible because of you. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. Smash the thumbs up. Leave a comment down after it posts up. I know you guys have been commenting, chatting. We appreciate that. But leave a comment down below the video. Kind of helps us with the algorithm so more people can find this. Thanks. That's about all I can say. I know I keep on going on. I keep saying every time that we have the greatest audience we could ever hope to have.
We got a lot of new subscribers too since last week as well. So
thank you.
Welcome to all. Chris is losing his train wreck of thought.
No. You guys, you're the greatest. Thank you so much. I appreciate each and every one of you. And just because I say that over and over, don't mean it's not. It's true, folks. Thank you. We appreciate you.
Amen. And folks, just so you know, what we did tonight was have some honest discussion and back and forth. And, like I said, we need to see the evidence to really tamper this down and see if it's real or not. See if this Capturing Bigfoot film, says what it's supposed to say. We shall find out. We've heard Eric's analysis. We're going to be doing ours, and we announced tonight that we'll be doing ours, a reaction on a night that it comes out, and we'll schedule it. And I won't watch it until it's time to do the show, and I'll watch it live with everybody else, as will Chris. But we can't air it, obviously. And some of my arguments I made tonight, not that I'm anti-Patterson, I'm just trying to bring out both sides of the argument here, that really what we need to do is take a look and open our minds and keep ourselves objective when we watch this film. I've argued this film's existence for years, so if it turns out to be what it is, it's going to crush me. But anyway, we love you guys. We will see you all here Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern on Hump Day. Everybody, until then, love you guys. Stay safe. Keep healthy. God bless. And, of course, keep on squatching. We'll see you all Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on Squatch-D TV.
We thank you for being here with us on Squatch-D TV. If you haven't taken the time yet, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And, oh, yes, hit that notification bell, too. We don't want you to miss anything. If you really like our content, you should consider becoming a member, and it's really inexpensive and a great way to support not only the show, but honest Bigfoot research. Everyone have a great week. Be safe, and God bless. We will see you all here next time on Squatch-D TV. Keep on squatching.